is mobilizing massively, with its sights seemingly set on the decisive central region. The party chairman has embarked on a charm offensive, starting by meeting NRM village chairpersons in Kampala. Does the party have what it takes to regain the support of Buganda? Meanwhile, Mugisha Muntu's Alliance for National Transformation is building structures, and NUP is running the Kunga campaign. But with the electoral roadmap to 2026 still unknown, is the opposition strategy efficient and organized enough to win? Elsewhere, angry youths wielding iron sheets took the streets to protest the misappropriation of relief items meant for the people of Karamoja. But while parallel investigations into the Karamoja iron sheet scandal continue, no officials have been implicated or jailed. Instead, some legislators remain in denial on the matter.
He received them from the minister of Karamoja. I will not add another word. I will go to roofings, order the same, and make sure that they are delivered 100 iron sheets to the Karamojong.
I think the minister should be able to explain that. You see, but for us, we don't know much about that.
The clock is ticking, and Uganda stands on the precipice of the political change. Who will be her knight in shining armor? Who will emerge victorious come 2026? This is The Frontline. NBS Frontline.
A very good evening and welcome to this edition of the NBS Frontline. My name is Charles Mwangushampagi. And tonight, as members of the ruling National Resistance Movement Party demand that their party explain exactly what direction it's taking, as the contestation between the MK movement or AME and that of the party chairman, who's also his father, President Yoweri Museveni, move campaigning almost in parallel directions. What exactly is going on in that political party? We're asking the big question. For all Uganda's political parties, what is the strategy as the year 2026 draws closer? With me in studio, I have from the National Resistance Movement, a member of the Central Executive Committee representing Western Uganda as Vice Chairperson, National Vice Chairperson for Western Uganda, Member of Parliament for Chinchizi East Constituency, Minister for ICT and National Guidance, and a regular on the front line, Dr. Chris Baryomunsi. Very nice to have you, sir.
Thank you very much, Charles. Good evening, fellow panelists, and good evening, viewers. I am happy to be back, to be here on the front line.
After missing one show, frontliner, Executive Director at the Uganda Media Center, Ofono Opondo. Very nice to have you, sir.
Thank you, Charles. Good evening to our viewers and good evening to fellow panelists. Especially the one from Namwendwa.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're being selective, huh? Especially.
This new love affair.
From the National Unity Platform, Secretary General David Laos Rubongoya. Very nice to have you, sir.
Very pleased to be here, and a very good evening to the viewers.
From the Forum for Democratic Change, Najana Nkumbi. From Namwendwa, as you've heard, the Honorable Salam Musumba Proskovia. Very nice to have you.
Thank you very much, Charles. It's a pleasure being on the panel once again.
She's also Vice President in the Forum for Democratic Change. And from the Democratic Party, Deputy President or Vice President? What's the right?
Vice.
Vice President. Yes. Do you need more introduction?
I thank you, Charles. I greet you, viewers, and my fellow panelists. I'm happy to be here.
There's a way you sometimes you speak your English.
Yes.
Your viewers, your ardent, may not understand what exactly you're saying.
I would have told them I am extremely beholden to be here. I'm basking in euphoria for the opportunity, and clearly I am happy.
You sound so.
Fred Mukasa Mbidde from the Democratic Party, very nice to have you. It's been a week of activity, but one of the major questions people are asking, after the scandal that gripped the country over Karamoja iron sheets, the first arrests arising out of this scandal and I know Fonopondo will be correcting me because there were arrests that started this whole saga, but the arrest of the youth who were attempting a demonstration in Kampala yesterday, at least those ones were arrested by the police, and they were asking, why haven't you arrested the people who misappropriated, misapplied, or took these iron sheets to other places apart from Karamoja? That's a major question that people have been asking. We'll be discussing that briefly. There was another demonstration that has resulted in the detention of at least 6 people, but that is 300 kilometers out of Kampala, in the Fort Portal tourism city, including the former mayor of that city, Reverend Wile Kintu Muhanga. There's a young man called Atom, the ghetto storyteller, and 4 others who are in police custody after they attempted a demonstration. No, it wasn't actually a demonstration. They said they wanted to hold prayers to ask God's intervention to deliver, to get government to deliver unfulfilled promises and pledges, particularly the industrial park at Kyembogo. So that's happening there. And elsewhere, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba is shifting focus. He's announcing plans for celebration of his 49th birthday, which will fall on the 24th of next month. But he's also beginning to focus on Kampala. He wants to clean it up, the many issues in Kampala, and he's also appointing his, is it cabinet committee? I am not yet quite sure. He's expanding, and one of the new entrants today is the Honorable Liliana Bear. She's vice chairperson in charge of Northern Uganda. We see Tamale Mirundi as a spokesperson for Buganda region, and several other appointments. What exactly is the strategy? Let me start with, let's start with the simple issue and dispense with it on the iron sheets scandal. As many Ugandans would agree today, they've called it a scandal. Dr. Baryomunsi, as government spokesperson, I want to start with you as Minister for ICT and National Guidance. Why arrest the demonstrators who are asking for answers, and you're in this studio and you promised, or you asked, that the nation gives you time to investigate and come up with a report on what happened to these iron sheets? So why arrest the people asking for those questions instead of the culprits or whoever mishandled the iron sheets?
Yeah, depends the manner in which you ask. Why did they come and ask me as a spokesperson of government to give them details? Do you ask by demonstrating and breaking the law? But anyway, to answer your question, we have discussed this issue on this forum. That yes, this issue has been in the public domain. Of course, it raised a lot of debate. And to me, to an extent, yes, it was a storm, but the storm will pick up. Like I said earlier on, I think there has been an element of playing hyperbole. Yes, there could have been a diversion of the iron sheets meant for Karamoja. And as we all know, investigations have been taking place, are ongoing, and the police is taking the lead in the investigations, and they are almost complete. I think they are remaining with the 3 or 4 people to record statements, and therefore people should be patient. Give time to police and the investigators, because they are the people involved are recording statements, but also police is doing some verification. Teams have even gone to Karamoja, then the stores of OPM. They are doing that comprehensive investigation. And once the files are complete, which will be soon, then they will be handed over to the DPP to study. And then the DPP, you know, the Constitution gives that office independence, will make an assessment and see cases which are prosecutable or those to be dropped, or if the investigations done by police are incomplete, they can request police to do additional investigations. So work is ongoing. It's so true that maybe government has abandoned. No.
The Karamoja iron sheets.
Yes, work is ongoing, and I have spoken with police that is carrying out this investigation, and therefore what I'm telling you is their position. But also, I think there has been a lot of excitement. I have said before in the media, labeling people thieves If a minister says, I was in my office or wherever I was, I received a call from the office of the Prime Minister that we have allocated 200 or 300 iron sheets for your constituency to give the vulnerable communities or as you see fit. And then the minister or MP picks the iron sheets, deliver them in the constituency, roofs a school or a health center or a church, and then gives accountability. In all fairness, why would you call that minister a thief? Why wouldn't you leave police to carry out the investigation, DPP to start the file, then if somebody is charged in the court, because I see the public labeling people thieves, thieves, thieves. I think we should leave that to police and the DPP to do the thorough investigation, and then those who are on the wrong side of the law will take its course. So there is no need for demonstrations.
Okay.
So,
and what about the arrest of those young people?
Yes, there is a law which governs processions, demonstrations, assemblies, you know it. And if you conduct...
In the context of this matter, let me move this to Ofono Pondo. In the context of this matter, so when everybody is asking for answers over a matter that was triggered by government systems themselves, as you did explain here on the show previously, when people are looking at a region as disadvantaged as Karamoja, that hasn't yet received what it was promised and government asked for a supplementary budget specifically to address the Karamoja issue, they haven't arrived. Does it sit well that before answers are given, people who are asking for those answers get arrested instead?
It does. I want to presume that the people who are seeking answers know the law, know procedures. There's no law which says you should disrupt police work, is there? So, if you have got to win, maybe via the media, and you know that suspects are going to the police station, have been summoned to record statements, why would you want to waylay those suspects, accost them, so that perhaps you injure them, or you obstruct them from reaching the police, or indeed disrupt the police inquiry? Why would you? In that respect, you breach the law. And therefore, the police should be able to restrain you. Whether they should restrain you and eventually charge you, that should depend on their evaluation of how serious your disruption was. So I see nothing wrong with the police taking action. I see everything wrong with the protesters, particularly when they target the scene where the police is doing its work. For me, I have said on this show before that there will be no attempt to cover up this matter. I also said before that, in particular, the president himself is not somebody who is panicky, because that's not his method of work. His method of work is gradual, painstaking, meticulous. Why would you want to rush so that along the way you give the potential suspects reasons to cite maybe political pressure in the line of inquiry? And so Ugandans should be comforted that the method of work of the president is painstaking. It takes his time. Thirdly, the investigation may be taking a little long, because you remember when this thing had just exploded, we had ministers like Honorable Musa said, who said they did not take iron sheets at all. You remember the case of Agnes Nandutu? She said she did it. Later on she went to Parliament and said, yes, I took 2,000 and they're still in my... If we had rushed, probably Nandutu would have gone scot-free. You remember another minister said, I took iron sheets to roof churches, only to emerge that he had roofed the house of his goats and the cows and the chicken and the pigs. You remember another minister who said, I was just at home and I was in my office and I was told iron sheets had been delivered to. Now, the inquiry of the police is emerging that many of them, from what we know from the media now, actually called the line minister for Karamoja and asked. Some of them have since accepted that they actually wrote requesting for iron sheets. So at the time, we never knew that backbench members of parliament had received. If the police had only gone to the 15 ministers, who would have known that this battery of members of parliament also benefited from the bonanza? And so
you referred to, both you and the minister referred to the law.
Yes.
But both of you did not refer to the Ugandan laws also provide for freedom of assembly,
freedom of assembly,
to demonstrate.
If you are peaceful.
Yes.
But if you are, you know that Ofono is going to Kibuli, and Kibuli has 1 or 2 entrances, and then you go and barricade the entrance of the police station of a government office with the intent to accost, to disrupt, to obstruct a potential witness that police has invited, I think there you breach the law.
Okay, let me move on to
whether you are peaceful or not. But in this particular case, you said that maybe accosting a policewoman, a police officer.
Yeah, I've seen that scene. Yeah. It's an ugly scene. But I've seen all over the world when people are demonstrating, they time significant happenings. That's when they demonstrate. That's when the demonstration is effective. Whether it's environmental demonstration, you time COP. Lewis, let me come to you briefly. You have been very vocal at the National Unity Platform on this matter of the Karamoja iron sheets. Are you satisfied with the progress made so far on the investigation and action of whatever happened? Because we're in a gray zone at the moment. We don't know. Were the iron sheets diverted, misappropriated, stolen? It's not clear.
Yeah, thank you so much. Of course, when you listen to the two panelists who spoke before me, you can see the direction this matter is taking. And Ugandans who are watching us know how this will end. As always, there have been worse things in this country. People have stolen money for TB, they have stolen money for HIV, for malaria, for the most poor and vulnerable people in this country, and nothing has been done. So when the protesters come out, and I want to salute those young people who courageously decided, you know, in this country, when you decide to protest, it takes a lot of courage. And I want to really appreciate them and salute them. Right now, 8 of them are at Makshon Bay, at Luzira. And, you know, the people who stole the iron sheets are comfortable in their homes, being guarded by the police and the military. But these young people came out to say, you know what, we want to see answers. In other countries, in advanced countries, what happens when such a scandal comes up? The first step is to resign, to even pave way for investigations. But, you know, in this country, that does not happen. And, you know, and if you don't resign willingly, you are forced to resign if we had a functional system in this country. But even as the investigations go on, you've seen, and Fonopono has just said it here, people have begun changing statements. It is very clear, and everyone can see that nothing will come out of this. Most likely, General Museveni will invite these people, and you know the way it has always been. Someone commits the most heinous crimes, and Ugandans expect action. Instead, these were promoted or sent somewhere, and there are countless examples from people who committed heinous crimes in Kasese and were promoted now. One is a deputy CDF of this country, from people who stole Gavi funds, who mismanaged OPM pension funds, all those, as we've seen over the years. So it is very, very clear to Ugandans. And of course, in these investigations, I wouldn't be surprised if 1 or 2 people become, you know, the sacrificial lamb in this whole thing. And this is what typical of what has always happened. They weigh the political risks or the connections people have, and then they go for someone, and they become the sacrificial lamb, and the investigation stops there. So I don't expect much, and as a National Unity Platform, of course, we do not expect much, because we know that although there are all these systems in place, they are not independent. You know, the IGG is conducting an investigation, but you just saw a letter which came out recently where General Museveni directed the IGG to say, do not try to even ask the soldiers, the generals and all that to declare their wealth. And what was very interesting in that letter, he said, no matter what the law says, no matter what the law says. So if the IGG, who the Constitution says should be independent and not work under the direction or control of anybody, is receiving such illegal instructions from the purported head of state, how do you expect this person to actually conduct investigations?
You lead the opposition in parliament as National Unity Platform. And in other countries, you just referred to other countries. In other countries, the opposition, if it takes a position, the party in power will be forced to listen, including in the region. I was reading an interesting op-ed just this afternoon in the East African newspaper, comparing the tenacity of people like Julius Malema and Raila Odinga, that outside of the demonstrations they are leading now, but to say, if Raila Odinga insists on something, the government in power will listen to him and has been consistent. If Malema, who is relatively younger, is 45 years, I think today, around this time, if he says something, he'll insist on it and he will be listened to. Can the opposition in Uganda be listened to? What do you need to do to put yourselves in a position, especially as the leading opposition party in parliament, to shake up things, not necessarily through demonstrations, but to know that if NUP says something, it will be listened to?
Of course, the terrain is different. And Ugandans who are watching us know this, the terrain is different. You cannot compare the circumstances in South Africa and Kenya to those in Uganda. You saw what happened in November 2020, where the military just went on the streets and killed citizens with reckless abandon. And up to now, we've been asking for answers, nothing. So if in those countries...
Does that say something about your strategy?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not saying that we're giving up. I'm just saying that the terrain is different. And the actions we're trying to take have to be informed by the terrain in which you operate.
Okay.
I mean, I can just give an example. If those young people, about 13 or 14 of them, went downtown Kampala and they were protesting, I had, I think he's misinformed that they were going to Chibuli. This is why I said they were going to the DPP, to the office of the DPP, to say, prosecute these people, exercise your mandate under the Constitution. And the police treats them in that manner. No one in this country is allowed to protest. So what do you expect?
We'll come to your strategy later. let me just speak from the Honorable Proscovius Lamusumba and Fred Mukasa Mbidde on the Iron Sheet scandal. And, well, there's debate of whether we should call it a scandal or not at this stage with the investigations going on. The arrest of the young people and the progress of the investigation so far, from where you sit.
Yes, thank you, but I really believe that we are handling this matter in a very elementary way. What should be concerning us as a panel and as a country is the policy underbelly of the Iron Sheet theft. It's no longer a scandal, it's outright theft. Outright theft, and you know, the investigation that they're doing is a procedural matter to give us more facts, to widen the scope of investigation, and to know who was involved and who was not. And what I see here is the shamelessness of the entire governance system, that even a person who roofed a pigsty is brave enough, and deroofed it, is brave enough to stand before us and claim innocence. That one should have gone long ago. The sense of entitlement of the political class that is supposed to be under the supervision of the minister we have on the panel. That you cannot give this country guidance if you can't guide your own colleagues. I think your ministry should be even cut. They should cut off just one side. And they are the Minister of Ethics,
National guidance.
No, not national.
ICT?
ICT, and stop there. Because you have no capacity, you have no competence to guide on anything, least of all, on thefts. Now, when we call it theft, I think we should go back in all the years of the new constitution, the variety of thieves and thugs occupying high places.
Where's this theft when people took these iron sheets and gave them to what, in their definition, are vulnerable people in their constituencies, including churches?
That wasn't fit for, that wasn't the purpose.
Schools.
That wasn't the purpose for which a supplementary was hurriedly processed. If the accounting address was Karamoja, for you privileged communities whose children are not on the streets of Kampala, if Karamoja was the eating address, then you have your planning processes all upside down. You should be able to look at who is auditing government stores and who is auditing government plans and processes. Who is? The same ministry, the office of the Prime Minister, that is supposed to do this, was caught with its hands in the what? In the till. So, this is only revealing, the iron sheets are only revealing what we are dealing with, the damaged governance we are dealing with, the damaged processes we are dealing with, the underbelly of the tensions within the government that are going on. Because my suspicion is that this is a battle between the technocrats and the political class. Because you remember on COVID, the many technocrats that were accused of theft of beans and under delivery must be the ones that are whistleblowing on the ministers for iron sheets. That facet of tension within the government should also be investigated. But we should also look at Karamoja and look at the looting of Karamoja. These iron sheets are just, you haven't even talked about the goats. For a long, long time, Karamoja has been governed by NGOs. Government has been absent. Karamoja wasn't made poor yesterday. It has been systematically looted of its gold, of its cement, of its marble, of everything else. So I see it as a compounded effort to keep the Karamojong backward. If you are to look at the mineral map of this country, I am aware, because I was the chair of the committee on presidential, I had a look at the mineral map of Karamoja. I know how much mineral wealth is in Karamoja and the politics of keeping Karamoja backward. So what you're looking at are symptoms. These are small things. It's not even iron sheets. Iron sheets are not the reason, why Karamoja is backward.
Comparatively, isn't that a major contradiction? Because many people looking at Karamoja today think it's now accessible by tarmac road from Kampala up to Karamoja, that it's been, there's been an attempt, at least over the last few decades, to bring it into the nation called Uganda from a time when it was seen like a foreign territory.
I will tell you that road is evacuation of minerals. It is to make it easier for minerals to move to Tororo. Electricity is for purposes of extracting the minerals quicker. Okay. It is not about the Karamojongs. It is about the people who are benefiting from the wealth in Karamoja. And so the iron sheets is to keep us busy talking about the petty end of what is happening in Karamoja, to divert national attention from the issues of Karamoja. Because tell me, you mean the Right Honorable Prime Minister cannot afford to buy 2,000 iron sheets?
From whose resources?
If she can throw money at everybody all over the country.
From whose resources?
From her own.
Is that something you'd encourage? That
from her own resources.
Politicians continue to use their own money
from her own resources, her own, she can buy 2,000 iron sheets. And just look at the class of political leaders that have all been involved in the iron sheets. Are they not capable? Look at the Minister of Finance. do a profile on each and every.
My question is the ability to buy from their own resources to cater for needs that the government should be taking care of.
And they don't have to.
Okay.
They made a choice.
Let me come
they
to
made a choice. They
Yes.
made a choice to do that. And all that is really a cover-up.
I
They were taking it home. And
I-
these iron sheets were found in their homes. They were not found in classes. And I can name each and every one of them for you. We are waiting as FDC. We are waiting for the official report. And we will provide the real report.
Okay.
Because we, too, are interested in seeing who gets caught. But you haven't talked about the people who didn't partake.
We'll come
Because
back.
there are people who did not. And why didn't they?
We'll come back to that in a moment. Let me bring in Honorable Fred Mukasa Mbidde from the Democratic Party. What direction is this iron sheets thing taking?
Yeah, first of all, I think let us address, for me, the demonstrators. You know, our legal jurisdiction recognizes public opinion. Otherwise, we would not be having assessors in courts of law. So the demonstration with regards to the manner in which the population received the iron sheets in per se is intended to indicate the opinion of the masses on the matter. For me, I thought that would also strengthen the government in terms of how quick and urgent investigations are required. But let us now point at this. There is also another dichotomy that one needs to look at. The trust of the population in terms of whether government is really prepared to handle anything to do with the corrupt, anything to do with the criminality, when the factors in the equation are very strong and powerful leaders, part of government. That one, the population doesn't believe they can do it. And clearly they would always want to maintain it at the helm of their own subconscious level of the brains. Government needs to be told immediately, repeatedly, intermittently, that please continue, we need results. Number two, what we are dealing with, and I have had a lot of explanations from very many people, ministers, members of parliament, everybody, thinking that actually what saves you, one, is whether when you received the iron sheets and you discovered later on that they were wrongly brought to you, you can return them and you are free. That is number one.
The Speaker did.
Number two, thinking that you did not requisition for the same, they were found in your possession, you even used them for the correct reasons, and accordingly you are safe. Now, I am speaking as a lawyer. This is criminal law. The penal code is very clear on possession of government stores. I am telling you. Now, first of all, those who bought and brought them back are again violating other public procurement and disposal of assets law. Because first of all, when you are not at liberty, for me, I thought that we are now very okay, because we are beginning to receive admissions. Now, when you begin to receive admissions, and evidence of admissions in the form of one, even attempts to return, two, acceding and accepting that you received the same, three, evidence of what actually remains. Number four, directing us to even where you distributed them. Because
why should you worry if somebody is trapping themselves by those actions? You should actually be
my worry
silently happy.
These are my two worries, Mr. OO. But the first worry is, first of all, the coinage of the investigating entity. If police were independently left under the Penal Code, the Criminal Procedure Code Act, if police were left with the liberty to investigate and accordingly apprehend the same for purposes of the DPE to try, then I would be happy. But when you now constitute an amalgamation of security agencies to create a report and hand the same over to the DPP, the admissibility of this report again becomes now a major problem. Number two,
But
the
who has told you
DPP,
that they have put together different things?
I know that it is not independently handled by police. That is the fact. So for me, I know that we are again preempting, futuristically, we are preempting the results of the prosecution itself. And for me, as a lawyer, I get worried. So when the population begin to say, no, we want this thing to achieve results, when you are dealing with procurement of public assets, there are very stringent and serious rules. The rules to do with who actually procures, why, the quality, the amount, in terms of extent, and they are even now when you begin again purchasing for government and handing over to government again, now that means there are even violations of those that obtained the tenders, rightfully. Number two, those that accepted that they received them. The law provides for accessories after the fact, it provides for joint offenders, it provides for conspirators. We want now government to handle up. Government, you have a wealth of laws and provisions within which to charge everybody. Let this government show for the first time that we are tired of theft and corruption. I can tell you it begins with you. I have an example. I was once exchanging with one of the ministers in one of the neighboring countries, a minister in charge of works. You know, they had, before they got some bit of problems with another country called DRC, they used to have reciprocal visits. And he was a minister in charge of works. When the Congolese minister in charge of works visited this one country, he was shown a road from here to there, and he asked, how much did you make out of this? The man told him, here, at the risk of your own life, probably you can take a centimeter on this side and a centimeter on the other. Now, out of reciprocity, he also now conducted a visit to DRC Congo. The minister stopped one of their cars right from the airport. Just in the middle of the forest, he disembarked and he called his counterpart. Please come out. Now, this one didn't even know what was going on. Then the minister showed him a forest and he told him, for me, I ate this road. He asked him which one. No, he told him it was supposed to pass here. So he was shown a forest, and he was told that the man ate the whole road. It begins with you, government, if now we can handle any material theft that emanates from you. Because we have rules on appropriations, we have rules on management of government stores, we have regulations on how they say. We want a situation that begins from whoever signed, because there are even forgeries. These iron sheets were supposed to lead somewhere, but somehow they led somewhere else. We want now even the forgeries themselves, ranging from the apparatchik of the ministries to the real ministers, so that we can have
the Honorable Francis Muzushe is watching us and says, good evening, frontliners. My question is, that we know who got the iron sheets, we know who gave the ministers the iron sheets, we know who the iron sheets were meant for. Those who took the iron sheets have accepted that they were given, and they took the iron sheets. What is the police investigating? That's Francis Mwizuchi. He's a member of parliament. There's a viewer here. He's called Davis. Pardon? You'll answer him. Okay. Davis from Humbo is watching us from Fort Portal and says, what was the reasoning of arresting a reverend, 5 others in Fort Portal, for praying for the head of state to get sense and implement his unfulfilled pledges he made to the people of Toro for the last 25 years? What were they disrupting in a village of Kyembogo where there are no people or businesses? What crime had they caused to remind the head of state? Davis Ramumba. I think there's a charge sheet. The police must have charged them with something if it's detaining them.
With something?
Yeah, with something. Okay. So he needs to look at the charge sheet to be able to conclude, and the answers may be there. Reverend Dr. Grace Lubale is asking, I'm following. Iron sheets were stolen, and that is theft, nothing else. Therefore, such ministers should have resigned a long time ago, and government laws on public servants who violate leadership code be effected. Dr. Grace Lubale. I'll pick a few more messages and then we should be able to move on. I can say Honorable Mwizuchi is typing some more. I have also seen a letter. This letter is dated the 26th of April 2022, long before the Karamoja Iron Sheet scandal broke. And the letter reads, it's addressed to a member of parliament. I'll not mention the name, but it looks like a general letter to members of parliament, and says, allocation of iron sheets. The office of the Prime Minister, through Bunyoro Affairs portfolio, has procured iron sheets to be distributed to religious institutions, schools, the vulnerable youth, women, elderly, and people with disabilities in Bunyoro sub-region. The purpose of this letter, therefore, is to request that you collect 100 iron sheets from the office of the Prime Minister stores for your onward distribution to the beneficiaries. The stores are located along Ginger Road, House of Plastics Factory in Namamve. And our contact persons can be reached on a telephone number that there's a name of a gentleman and a second telephone number. And it says, for accountability purposes, please ensure that you submit in a requisition indicating the beneficiary groups, institutions, individuals, or other persons. That's a 2022 letter.
Are those MPs now thieves? Are those MPs thieves?
I'm reading every message that I'm getting.
And about trusting the public.
Let me pick one, maybe one more message, and then we should be able to move on and actually move to a different subject. I would allow the minister to respond briefly. And Honorable Salamu Suba, you had something that you didn't conclude, which I will allow you, and then we'll switch to ask the strategy that your political parties have in the political situation we are in. Job Matua Richard is saying, kindly inform my senior Honorable Minister, Dr. Chris Bariomonsi, that the Minister for Karamoja Affairs stole the iron sheets together. She then went ahead to give them to other government officials. We must condemn this theft in totality. I am tired of the industrial scale level of corruption in Uganda. Please and please, Honorable Minister, Mary Goretti Chitutu should have been arrested. Failure to arrest her is a gross mistake we should admit painfully. We failed in our duty to protect poor and dying Karamojong. I'm digging deeper for critical evidence and will expose the details of the theft. Honorable Minister, you have a minute.
No, there's one comment I wanted to make. You have read like that letter, and I'm rhetorically asking, so would you consider those MPs thieves? Because the office of the Prime Minister is saying, pick iron sheets which have been allocated to your constituency. Now, you can draw parallels to this situation. Yes, why did the minister responsible for Karamoja should explain why, if it is true that all those iron sheets we're talking about came from the Karamoja docket, why she opted to give ministers before even delivering in Karamoja. She has those questions to answer. But look at a scenario where Minister X receives a call from the office of the Prime Minister. They don't say that we had the iron sheets meant for Karamoja and we have given you some. I am sure if a statement came like that, no minister would accept to take Karamoja iron sheets. But the message is the office of the Prime Minister has allocated 200 or 300 iron sheets for your constituency. Because we all know the office of the Prime Minister is in charge of relief items. So, now the issue is, one view is that all the iron sheets came from Karamoja docket. But I also heard the Prime Minister say, no, there are many departments which procure...
Honorable Minister, let me
make my point. Which procure iron sheets, Teso Affairs, Bunyuel Affairs, Northern Uganda. So, Honorable Minister is saying, why is the police investigating? It has to get the root of the matter. Is it true the iron sheets were all from the Karamoja department, or there are some from other departments, so that they can assemble evidence and information which the DPP can use? So you can't say simply because the media has written, therefore DPP
I want to ask a question, but I say Mbidde here wants to say something.
Yes.
Why don't we also look at the possibility that even the selective application of the distribution itself has some intrinsic criminality? Because why would only one constituency, for example, be given when it is not a policy that the constituencies of all members of parliament have the distribution, even when it is not part of the Karamojong iron sheets? So Honourable Minister, you may be treading on a very slippery ground if you attempt to interpret what is happening in terms of history. Because even then, that means the historical investigations need to be conducted, even along those areas in the office of the Prime Minister.
No,
number two,
what I am disputing is for you to say
that
we know everything, police don't have to investigate. No, they should investigate and dig out the facts.
The office of the Prime Minister,
like you have seen, they have given
does
a
not
list
act
of MPs,
independent
which
of its own.
Thank you.
It is divided into several other offices, to the extent that when you are now dealing with the occasional occurrences that happen, there is a minister for disaster preparedness, there is a minister for this. And if the Prime Minister calls and he distributes, again, that one is an area for investigation.
Okay, thank you.
Like we have seen a list saying there are many MPs who received, yet we didn't know that.
Can I share 1 minute between Honorable Musumba and Rubongoya? Because I see both of you are each say something.
I really want to see the gender dimension of this theft. I want to see whether men are more thieves than women, or whether women in high
there is a
places
balance.
are
You might
bigger
get out
thieves.
research in the
I want that part of the investigation.
Then I'll, I'll give you 30 seconds as well. Yes?
Yeah, for me the issue, it's clear. You see, you cannot tell me that a person at the level of a minister, if iron sheets are being distributed and orders are being given on WhatsApp, like we are now being told, that you cannot see that this is clearly wrong. There are clear rules, there are clear regulations on how you are supposed to requisition for items from the OPM, and if these items, and the manner in which they are supposed to be delivered and that kind of thing. But we see that some people are just going there with cheats, others were just being given WhatsApp messages. So I don't think Honorable Bariomus should come here and sanitize this grand theft.
Okay, thank you. Your 30 seconds are over. Oh, for no, 30 seconds as well.
Yes, I think this investigation is critical because it should inform prosecution, it should inform policy, and eventually also procedure. Is it procedurally right that when we have government resources, we should give them directly to sitting politicians, especially members of parliament? Your news item today at 9, you saw members of parliament almost accosting the Minister of Agriculture. And what was the reason? The executive has decided that instead of giving planting materials, seeds for maize, seeds for groundnut, seeds for this, to members of parliament, let the money go to parish development model, so that it is the circles of farmers and entrepreneurs that purchase the planting materials for themselves. Members of parliament are saying, no, we have given you 2 weeks. Is it 1 week? We have given you 1 week. Please bring for us our maize seeds.
Thank you. Your 30 seconds are over.
All of these
your 30 seconds are over.
The caliber of leaders we are dealing with.
My only question is that
this investigation should be...
You as leaders of political parties, the critical and first line of accountability is the political accountability.
Yeah.
Morally, is what has happened to the iron sheets morally right? No. Then we go to the legal. The lawyers, David here and Fred, to ask the legal questions, because that's a different line of investigation. The political moral question is a different question, is a different line of investigation. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll be discussing the preparedness and the readiness and the strategies of the different political parties as we move towards 2026.
Frontline.
Get more for less on StarTimes this Easter season. Cartoon channel for best children entertainment. New global series. Local drama on Makula TV and football all around the world. Simply make weekly or monthly subscription and enjoy upgrade to the next bouquet. For classic or super bouquet customers, subscribe for a month and enjoy 5 days extra. Family time with StarTimes. StarTimes is regulated by UCC.
Work, work, work. Work's over. Busy Bite. Get down to snack business. When snacking is under attack, we'll be there to fight back.
Iwakato, this is a quick call. I'm almost out of minutes. Now, the center.
Why rush through such important conversations? Airtel Uganda has made it possible for you to call across all networks in Uganda at the best rates with the new Bona voice bundles. Stay connected anytime, anywhere, with minutes valid for calls on all networks. Dial *100*1#. Select voice bundles and select Bona voice bundles today. Airtel, the smartphone network.
When do I get to meet with my MP? Members of Parliament hold regular consultative meetings with their constituents to update them on the activities of the government and gather their concerns, including those being discussed in Parliament. Your MP must seek your opinion on issues that concern you and bring them to the attention of the government. Your Member of Parliament is your representative. Make your voice heard. This message is brought to you by the Parliament of the Republic of Uganda. Better steady, be better.
7 out of 10 of us have lost a substantial amount of money to fraudsters. Money we could have used to pay rent, invest in small businesses, clear fees, or send to mama in the village. Better steady and protect what's yours by being vigilant with your virtual transactions. Keep your PIN to yourself and only take calls from registered customer care numbers in case of telecom issues. Better steady, be better.
From.
You're still watching NBS Frontline and the iron sheet scandal of, yes, the moral question, the morality, and especially for a political party in power that believes in the power of the people and the demands and the needs of the people and addressing that. I think that's something that needs to be addressed. And let me take these couple of messages and then we will move on to discuss the strategy in the political parties. Joshua Mafabi is watching us from Bali and he says, I think that the iron sheets have been stolen and other scandals, but I really think these are peripheral matters which we might not do much about. They have been given too much attention, more than the pertinent issues in the country, including corporate governance, unity, to better the country than blame games. Joshua, I think you make a fundamental point there. Someone here says they want to put, yes, Kano Jane Kojo is at Morolinga in Moroto, and he says, our operations in Karamoja are clear as stipulated by His Excellency, the President. Iron sheets are not part of what they're doing, and he says he's putting the record straight.
Is that the state lodge?
Hmm?
When you're in Morolinga, you're in the state lodge. What do you see outside the Manyata?
No, I think they're doing different operations, and
Okay.
they have not been involved in the iron sheets issues. I saw a message from retired ambassador Harold Achema, who's watching us from Arua. I wanted to pick it up.
Hi.
Yes, yeah? Yes. Ambassador Harold Achema here says he's in Arua City and says Uganda has suddenly degenerated into a circus and a theater of the absurd where anything goes. There is clearly no political will to fight and eradicate corruption. The gallant people of Uganda deserve a lot better. That's Harold Achema. I see so many messages. I'm sorry I will not be able to speak all the messages now. I'll pick those I can be able to as we move along with this discussion. There is Beinomjisha Godfrey from Bushenyi district. He says, shameless, how can, he's wondering about the defense of what he calls daylight robbery. And says, some people will never go to heaven. And you see the Ugandans lining up to vote for such. Beinomjisha, this is very hard language. Huh? I can't read everything that you have sent. Please tone down the language when you're communicating. You can still make the same point without being insulting or abusing people or mentioning people's names. Tembo Misai Kaugu is in Kasese, and he says it's a shame that people can be arrested for congregating to pray to God, to soften hearts of those in government, to come on good assurances. Among the Bakons of Kasese, we will also hold prayer so that the Holy Spirit reminds. But how could Dr. Mariomus promise a road in Kasese in Msongora South? That you promised a road in Msongora South?
Which
in
road?
Kasese?
Can you mention which one?
Probably during the by-election.
He says Msongora South during last year's by-elections that you promised a road in Kasese. I thought
he's even forgotten.
I thought he was forgotten.
These wild things they
I
get
think he's
involved.
referring to the roads to the higher lands, which roads were like almost impassable, and they said the government will work on those roads.
Yes.
Not me as Bariomus, but
Okay.
the government. And the promise remains that those roads, actually beginning next financial year, we are going to give each district 1 billion shillings in addition to the money they have been getting through the road fund to work on the roads. So Kasese, the money is coming.
Okay. Yavinze Kamira Humphrey is in Fort Portal and sends regards only to one person on the panel, the indefatigable Honorable Salam Musumba.
Me, I was
Yes.
I hope Salam didn't send the message herself.
No, I did. I know, yeah, good to hear from you.
Another 4 days, I think.
Who is this? Okay. Let's go to discuss the readiness, the strategies within the political parties. I want to start with the Democratic Party. What's going on at the Democratic Party? You made a deal some time back, and now things are moving on, and people are wondering where you stand at the moment, whether you actually do have a strategy to get yourselves running competitively in the politics.
The Democratic Party recognizes, and obviously we are, the evidence is very clear. When each political party speaks here, we recognize that actually no political party is free to operate in Uganda. I had a debate recently in one of the universities in Uganda, actually 2 universities. And the professor, there was a professor who was arguing that we are under a multi-party political dispensation. Something I did not agree with. I explained, and I think many people bought the idea I possessed, that what we have are registered political parties, but we don't have a multi-party political dispensation. So the freedoms with which any political party can promise hell on earth do not actually obtain on the ground. Now, in the absence of such freedoms, the Democratic Party begins to think that it is not true that all monkeys can be on the same branch of a tree. There must be a multiplicity of opinions that should be espoused for purposes of leading Uganda to the best. Now, when I talk about the lack of freedoms of political parties, I am also talking about the NRM party. A lot of people think that the NRM party is in power, which is actually not true. When you look at all the leaders of the NRM party, you find that actually they are powerless. What is existent is...
Including the one on this panel?
Of course, they don't have the power to run anything in this country. What happened is that the president has established a task force mentality. It is an institution that looks at every placement as a task force. And he has used it to run the country for quite some long period of time. It has now developed to a dogmatic cult.
I thought my question was about on whether you have a strategy.
And I am getting there. And I am getting to the strategy. Because if I don't generate a background to the strategy.
You're moving through Kigali, Arusha, Nairobi, and then coming back to Kampala.
But that has been the strategy. When you have been led for a period of over 35 years, and you think you have got a strategy that is just a minute, then in my opinion, you only explain why you have been led for that long. So in my opinion, the strategy must surround our own selves. First of all, we must remove from all attempts to think. The subconscious level of our brains must remove our own selves from figments of fertile imaginations. That you have a strategy of winning power out of an election organized under a system that is still apparent. So until you attack the system, until you either talk to the system, until you make sure the system is amended, in my opinion, it is like carrying a basket and you promise everybody that you are delivering water on your return. If they wait for it, then of course the decision they are making.
So what is the Democratic Party promising to deliver?
So the Democratic Party thinks that what exists in Uganda, one, I am taking care that you do not interject me when I'm building my my narrative, that we think Uganda does not have a functional political party, even one. What is leading the country is close to a dogmatic cult. But with a simplified and easily graspable catechism, and with President Museveni as the high priest celebrating the mass. Now, that is what most people think is actually a government of the NRM party, which is not the case. What we have is an institution of governance that is established, and the party is actually, what they call a party is a clog. It is just, I do not know how I can put it in very... A face. It is just a face. Even when they are invited to elect, for example, a flag bearer for presidency, most times they are during times of grasshoppers. They return when they are told that actually only one person has won. So there was no competitor.
Do you have or don't you have a strategy?
So the strategy is we must fight, because when there is only one entity leading a country for that long, it establishes only two entities in a country: authoritarian rule and a protest support in the population, not political parties. Now, that is not an area for operation of political parties. So what exists is the power of bias. That the government is biased against the opposition.
Let me ask the question again. Do you have a strategy or you don't have one?
I thought what I'm explaining is the strategy.
That's the strategy. Okay.
And finally, the strategy must be to fight the power of bias. The power of bias of government against those that are considered refractory opposition, and the power of bias of those on the opposition against the authoritarian government. That is only achievable through cooperation. Now that is the strategy. So you can imagine...
You drew the image of... you took us to the idea of a high priest and a catechism.
Yes.
By your MOU, are you serving at the altar?
We want...
Altar boys?
We think we are carrying a message of hope. Even to the president, that please, it is possible to establish political parties, because they don't exist.
Let's move quickly to the Forum for Democratic Change. Honorable Salam Musumba, what's the strategy at Naja Nankumbi, dealing with what we're dealing with today? Do you have a plan? Do we see you emerging out of Naja Nankumbi a stronger force, better organized, out to get something out?
Yes, we are duty bound to offer the alternative leadership that this country is so hungry for, that it had hoped to achieve when we participated in making a new constitution for ourselves, a homemade constitution. And so we are duty bound to do whatever it takes to offer choice in this country, the choice of leadership. We have the advantage of history on our side, because what the NRM fought for, what the NRM claims to offer Uganda is in itself a disaster to it. The creator is a disaster to it, and it's a disaster to the entire nation. If you ask any ordinary NRM person, if I ask the SEC member, if you ask them what's the plan, they have no plan.
And if I ask somebody from the
the
neck of FDC,
no,
what is
if
the
you
plan?
asked us, we know what the plan is. But the destroyers of the political environment in which we are operating, the known one.
Before we look at the destroyers, we need to look at you and ask.
Yes.
You were once the leading opposition party. So many people would think they have moved on, and even within the FDC, people have moved on. Others say
Where
people
have
moved on
they
to
moved
on to NOP, moved on to DP.
They have moved to nowhere because they are still within the entrapment and the emasculation of a system that is dead and buried. So nobody has moved nowhere.
What is your plan to free them from that entrapment?
Our plan is to break free.
How?
The breaking free will use every constitutional means
that's the
to
goal.
break free.
That's the goal. What is the plan?
And we will use every method available in the books. Available in the books, because we have diverted from the constitutional way. We are now, everybody is operating at will. It's a free fall for everybody. So we cannot, I can't sit here and describe a plan that we have. Because we have so many things on the menu that we are describing to you what we intend to do so that we can be waylaid. No, that one I will not do. I will not do.
No, I'm not asking that you explain to me.
Yeah.
Explain to the Ugandan who's watching you.
That Ugandan includes you.
Yes.
Because that Ugandan, we are offering them a choice. If they want to break free, we are available.
What is that choice?
The choice they have is to trust us, believe in us, and move with us.
Why should they trust you? Why should they believe in you?
Because everything that we want would happen has happened. Everything that we were farsighted. We have delivered the tools with which to bring democratic change. If democratic change is not feasible, is not tenable, then any change on the books is available for us to pursue.
Going into the 2011 elections, you had something called P10.
Yes.
What happened to that?
Prior
to that, you had
it's hibernating. It is hibernating.
Hibernating.
Yeah.
When does it come out of hibernation?
It will be given a command when to get out of hibernation.
Let me ask Klaus Rubongoya. You have had opportunity to lead.
Because it has no opportunity.
The opposition in Parliament have the biggest numbers at 57 members of Parliament sitting in that house and the leadership of key committees of Parliament. But Ugandans asking, what next? What is going on? What's happening? Did you arrive?
Of course we haven't, and you know that, first of all, it's interesting that you're asking us about the strategy to remove the military regime on national TV. You want us to actually come here and tell all the operatives who are watching what strategy we have to dislodge them. I find it rather ironical, but
I find it very actually interesting that the leaders of the major political parties in the opposition all are saying we have plans, but those plans are confined somewhere.
Yeah, simply because of the environment.
When the front line is providing a platform for you to be able to share what...
We don't need your platform to execute what we want.
You know, we'll give you what we can. We'll give you what we can, but, you know, there are, like she said, there are strategies, there are methods, there are tactics and all that. And for me, I think our strategy as NUP has been summarized in one word: people power. People power. We believe in the power of the people, and every day when we wake up, our strategy is to awaken the masses. And all our tactics, all our methods are geared towards that. So when you see us go for Kunga campaigns, trying to mobilize the masses through our mobilization efforts, when our training department goes out there to, you know, awaken the people, when you see our spokespersons through the communications do whatever they do, when you see our election management and all our other wings, the foot soldiers, whatever, every person out there, our strategy is to awaken the people of Uganda. Because we went into an election which we believe we won. Clearly, every person out there knows that we did, and we are not declared. So now the question is, what can we do And it's not about us, it's about the people of Uganda. For us, what we've been doing is to tell the people of Uganda that your country sinks. We've just been talking about the levels of corruption in this country. That you have people who are stealing from the poor without shame and nothing will happen. And, you are arresting, people are protesting and the criminals are walking free. We are trying to tell the people that this is the state of your country. So on different fronts, you've talked about Parliament. Tomorrow we'll be launching, our parliamentary front will be launching an alternative budget to tell the people of Uganda what our thoughts are about where we think our country should be in terms of budgeting, of where the priorities of our country should be. So we are doing different things to awaken the people, because ultimately the power belongs to the people, and we want the people of Uganda, wherever they are watching us from, to be able to realize that actually we are many in our numbers. We can determine the destiny of our country and put an end to the humiliation and the indignity that they have suffered for all these years.
Previously, you said you could achieve that through elections processes. Then after elections and what you're just saying now, you seem not to have the faith that elections can deliver you to where you want to go.
I think we've been very clear from the start. You know that when we go into elections, we are still going for people power. We are trying to awaken the people through any opportunity that avails itself. Even when we are going into the election, that is, if you go back and see what our president, the Honorable Chagulanyi, said, he was very clear, has been clear from the start, our president, that you see, what we want to do, why we are going to this election is to awaken the people. That's why you've seen us go into different by-elections, even when we know the games that the regime is likely to play, because we are going out there to give a message to the people. And my friend, you know that every country where people have been able to get rid of these dictatorships, it's painstaking, it takes a lot of time sometimes it takes a short time. We are not the ones who have actually started this. People have been there before us doing this work, and we are also trying to put a brick that we can put to this effort to awaken the people. And I can assure you, a day will be there when the people of Uganda will say, you know what, today let us go and reclaim our power and be able to establish a new country.
Frank Gashumba is watching us. He says, Kudos Salam Musumba, one of the best brains Uganda has ever produced. That's from Frank Gashumba.
I'm flattered.
Yes, I see Laban Muhabwe is in Stagata, and he says it's very unfortunate that there is ignorance of Penal Code Act Section 67 to 69, i.e. unlawful assembly and riot, where police comes in, and this is to you, Honorable Mbidde. The message is for you from Laban Muhabwe in Stagata. I have seen...
what was the message? I didn't get it.
He says people are ignorant about Section 67, 69 of the Penal Code Act on illegal assemblies. I have Eli Turuho, who's watching us from Tororo. He says that is OO's land. I'll read the detail of his comment after the two of you have commented, because it's going in the direction of what I'm going to ask. First, the Honorable Minister. Specifically as a leader within your party, the National Resistance Movement, your colleagues in Parliament are demanding that your caucus ask questions about what is going on in the party, especially between your party chairman and General MK. Now, what direction should they be taking?
No, I attended that party caucus. I think it's only one member who raised it. So when you say you are colleagues...
and that one member is not your colleague?
No. He's a colleague, not colleagues.
No, that is the one who was quoted.
Primary school English.
That's the one who was quoted.
Yes, he's the one who raised it. But I have spoken over that issue here. So at the risk of repeating myself, let me say that General Muhoozi is not a member of the NRM. He's a serving military officer. And we have our constitution and the law, which bars serving military officers from participating in partisan politics. I've said this before. And you responded by saying there is a character saying, I leave partisan politics. But that's the position of the party and the position of government.
Previous serving military officers who have participated in partisan politics have been prosecuted previously.
Yes, when time comes, action will be taken. So therefore, what he's doing to politics is not correct. It's not correct, and he should abandon it. But for us as NRM, this is not time for campaigning. We haven't reached that time when we shall go through electoral processes. We have a clear constitution which lays out procedures which we shall follow to get a flag bearer. And when time comes, we shall follow that. I can assure you, in the 2025-26, the NRM party shall have a flag bearer who has been democratically elected within the internal mechanisms of NRM, and we shall field that candidate to contest with the other candidates who will come from other political parties.
As a leader in the national resistance movement, I believe you have seen all the endorsements that have been going on about the 2026 candidature.
Yes.
You've had the campaigns led by somebody working in the office of the national chairman, Hajat. There's a lady there, I remember the name.
Namiro?
No, not Namiro. And you have heard about the campaign of Tova Kumain and others all over the country.
Yes.
Isn't that political campaigns? And you say for you're waiting until 2025 when the time is right?
There is a difference. Even me, when I go to Chinchiz East, where I'm a serving member of parliament, I've even been seeing on social media, they say, we want Dr. Christopher Yumus to be a sole candidate 2026. So you cannot stop people, especially for incumbents, people to say, we still love you, we still endorse you. Like within NRM, actually in 2020, the leadership of NRM endorsed President Yoweri Museveni to continue being the leader of NRM in the 2021, 2026, and even beyond. It is on record. So if people say our chairman, our flag bearer is okay, we still express support for him and confidence in him to overcome. Actually, that is the dominant view within NRM. But you have not heard the president campaigning, going anywhere saying, vote me, because he knows it's not a time. When the time comes for us to elect a flag bearer, we shall use the due process. But endorsing and expressing support for an incumbent leader, whether president or MP, like I'm sure NUP members may say, Honorable Chaguranyi, we still love you, come back to 2026. There is nothing wrong with that. And within NRM, the dominant view is that President Yoweri Museveni remains our torchbearer, and we have no reason whatsoever, for instance, to endorse him again in 2026.
Does he have to do that himself? Because you have a Hajat Namialo working in the office of the president, in the office of the party national chairman.
Yes.
National party chairman. Even appointment of people to run these campaigns, isn't that?
To run the campaign or to work in that office?
No.
Those are different things.
I think
there is no campaign.
As recent as yesterday, we were seeing appointments in that office.
Yes, I think she appointed somebody to be a spokesperson of the office, not to campaign or what. There's a difference. So
what is that office doing?
The office of the national chairman. Like I have an office of the vice chairman, Western Uganda, NRM. If I appoint somebody to run the office, a secretary and a driver of my car, will you choose me for
it's
putting
that
staff
office
in
that
my
has
office?
been leading most of the endorsements that we have seen so far.
And I'm saying,
but do you understand the size of the meaning, the depth, the magnitude of the office of the national chairman? That people go and play within it and run an agenda, they run amok.
now are you also now a moderator?
No.
Yeah.
Because you make us feel like maybe we don't live in this country, we don't see what you see, or you don't see what we see. Maybe we are living in two different countries.
What I'm saying,
yeah.
President Yoweri Museveni is the reigning flag bearer for NRM and
That's
serving
true.
president.
That's true.
For people to express support for him is okay, like they do for other serving leaders. But have you heard the President Yoweri Museveni going to campaign?
Can I allow a person I employ to run a party outside the party organs, the secretariat, and they run a different parallel campaign?
Parallel to who?
Parallel to what the secretariat of Chadondo. Do you
Have you heard the Secretariat complaining?
I thought you wanted to ask him actually
It's
whether he respects the people that are watching us and their intelligence, because the people who are watching us know that General Museveni has been campaigning all through. While today, Mr. Moderator, just our members of parliament went to Mitiana to hold the Women's Day celebrations, and you saw what happened. You ran a story here.
They turned red.
Tear gassed. All sorts of things happened to them. Yet General Museveni and his son are free to go and do whatever.
It is not
to that.
Charles,
The office of the national
actually in Iguru, when the president was
Just
meeting
that
leaders
one.
in Iguru recently, a section of the audience says, "Oh, we want you to come back for 2026." I'm sure, like we are saying, all of us live in this country. What was his response? He said, no, that's what has brought me. I am mobilizing you for PDM. That time hasn't come. He was very clear, all of us watched. So, for you to say the president is campaigning, where has he had the rally to campaign?
But you can campaign through your agents.
Let's hear from Ofono Pondo. Ofono Pondo is a former spokesperson for the NRM party. Please, Yes, now he works for government as executive director at Uganda Media Center.
I've been a spokesperson of the movement. I've been a spokesperson of NRM, a spokesperson of presidential candidate Yoweri Museveni.
Yes.
So,
please help.
I have a wealth of experience.
Help me and our viewers understand. Help me and our viewers understand this. This is from Daudi Kabanda, a member of parliament and one of the leaders in the MK movement. He tweeted today and said, the chairman of the MK movement, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, has today made the following appointments in the movement. Honorable Lilian Aber, Vice Chairperson of Northern Region. Honorable Pito Gwang, Coordinator Teso Sub-Region. Mr. Tamale Mirundi, Deputy Spokesperson. And people are correcting him. Tamale Mirundi, Spokesperson for Buganda. What does this mean and how does it fit in the Tobacco main on one side?
Well, first of all, let me confess, you misled me. You posted the topic that we are coming to discuss, opposition political strategy. When you reach here, you said political strategy for all the parties, including the ruling.
You didn't want us to discuss the NRM party?
No, I'm not shy.
There's an opposition in the NRM
I'm not shy, but I think the viewers have seen that you have asked the three opposition leaders here what their strategies are or is for each of their political parties, or even combined together. Honorable Mbidde didn't have. He was gallivanting.
No, I talked of cooperation.
Honorable Salam Musumba rebuked you, said they don't even need your platform.
No, we don't.
To explain what their strategy is. No. My young brother said this government has intelligence. They will know our strategy and they will break.
And I said people power is our strategy.
Now,
I wanted somebody to dispute that NRM is also in the opposition.
If there is intelligence, the purpose of intelligence is actually to dig the unknown.
The NRM is on the opposition.
So
it's on the opposition.
They clearly don't have a coherent strategy. This is what I have got from them.
Do you have one?
Yeah, and I think, yes. Let me answer briefly. The strategy of the NRM is a protracted struggle to make the NRM an inclusive, accommodative, relevant political organization. And you can see how we have brought in Mukasa Mbidde's wing of leadership of the Democratic Party to execute the program of the movement of the NRM. That's one leg of the strategy. The second leg is to rebuild the Ugandan state, which we think we are doing very well. The economy, the socio-economic dynamics in the country, so that they serve useful purpose as a strategy to build national unity, national competence. From the government side, because we also run a government.
Yes, I hear you that.
Our strategy is to lift, to cause socio-economic, all-round socio-economic transformation. To cause all-round socio-economic transformation, education, health, child mortality, improving child survival and development and so on. And you can see the fruits of our strategy. There are different legs of that strategy. Now let me go and answer the question you are trying to ask me. There is no internal contradiction in the national resistance movement as far as the direction of leadership, national leadership is concerned, and in particular, selection for forthcoming cycle of election. When the National Electoral Commission blows the whistle, we shall realign our internal processes to the national process. General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, I want to associate myself, and I have said this also here on this show, is a serving military officer, and therefore you cannot ask individual NRM leaders to answer. But if you want to ask government, what are you doing with what appears to be indisciplinary behavior of a senior officer? You should ask the commander-in-chief, ask the CDF, ask the Minister of Defense. That's where he appropriately falls. I have also put a rider on this show that General Muhoozi is a senior presidential advisor on special operations, appointed by the president, who is the commander-in-chief. I am not privy to what the nitty-gritty of his terms and conditions of appointment is. When he was in the north, I have heard him, I have read, I have spoken to some of the handlers. I heard him speak about insecurity, and in particular reference to the Karamajong cattle rustlers who continue to penetrate. And I think that would fall within. Even if he was conducting some elements of politics, it could also be part of the special operations that are linked to security operations.
So this is part of the NRM strategy you're suggesting?
No, I was answering because I also speak for government, and I'm telling you that could be part of the element of the special operation the commander-in-chief, who is the president, has given him. Now, you asked the second question, the appointments that outfit is making. I have seen him making appointments that are, you can say, political, and making appointments on two categories of people. People who are not part of government. I think it is within his right to appoint those people. But for the people who are in government, the onus is on. For example, if he says, I have appointed a minister of government to be part of his personal outfit, I would want to hear from Honorable Ogwang. What does he say?
He has previously appointed the Attorney General.
Has he accepted? No, he said so. Did you see that?
The Attorney General was organizing.
Have you seen that? I would want to hear from Peter Ogwang. Does he accept this appointment? How does it rhyme with his official position in the government as a minister? I heard about 3-4 months ago, by the way, he said he had appointed Honorable Jacob Oboth, the Minister of State for Defense. Because he happened to be my MP also, Oboth. I actually asked him. I said, Oboth, I have seen this appointment on WhatsApp group, on social media. What do you say? And he said, I am not aware of that appointment. I suspect it is part of the intelligence mind game. You appoint people to deal with the infiltration of the likes of the Rwongoya, because you also want to psychologically counter a mob, a gangster psyche in the country, of adversaries in the country. 3, he has appointed sitting members of parliament. Members of parliament who don't hold government position, in particular executive position. I think it is again up to them. But those who are members of NRM, like a member of parliament, Honorable Daudi Kabanda, Honorable Lilian Abe, by virtue of being card-holding members of parliament of Uganda, on the NRM ticket, they ought to know the rules of the party. That if you are a member of NRM, card-holding member, more so, they are now the chairpersons of their respective constituencies. In the case of Honorable Lilian Abe, who is a woman member of parliament, she's a member of the Kitgum NRM committee and conference. She's a member of NRM Parliamentary Caucus. She's a member of the NRM National Conference. She's a member of the NRM National Executive Council. They should know the rules that govern them, because it could actually infringe on what they can do and what they cannot do. Now, members of parliament of the caucus, even if they were many, but Honorable Biabarim has clarified that it was only one person who asked. And I think they are right to ask. However, the parliamentary caucus of the NRM, its main role is legislative, to deal with the legislative matters that are about to come or are before Parliament of Uganda. For now, when we are running government, they have very little role on how do people come into the leadership of the NRM. And so I think it is okay if somebody was ambitious, was excited, or perhaps even has fear that because remember that we are also dealing with a fragile society system. A son of a president who's a general in the army, and he's saying, he has people, some members of parliament who are running around who are saying, that this is our standby generator. And by the way, they have made it clear. They have said it's a standby generator, not the main generator.
Because the power is still on.
Yeah, the power is still on.
Okay.
Yeah. So even themselves are conscious that they cannot beat the generator until this one, perhaps the light is dimming. Okay. The current is weak.
Since I have the top leaderships of the leadership of...
and therefore, just to conclude, it is unfair to ask NRM people to answer for what General is running around doing in the country.
Who should be asked?
The people who should answer that should be the government. The government. Yeah, I can answer. Honorable Barem has answered. We have never shied away. The president should answer, certainly. The Minister of Defense should answer. The CDF, the Chief of Joint Staff. Those are the people who govern. You know very well that not every civilian governs a soldier. Soldiers are governed specifically. And therefore, your question should actually go to people who manage. And
my question has been going to the spokesperson of government,
and we have answered.
The Minister of Information.
Maybe we have not satisfied, or we have not given you the answer you would want to hear.
The last time you answered, you expressed what should happen. And it hasn't happened.
No. I have answered.
The focus starts to discuss the budget.
Let me let the other panelists come in.
Charles,
yes.
I think there are major things that have happened on this show. And let us be extremely frank to the viewers. One thing that happened was a policeman asked you, he told you that people are ignorant about Section 60.
He is retired. Laban has been retired for some time.
Yes.
67 and
he was
69.
Laban, I know him. He was a very powerful minister in my government in Makerere for postgraduate affairs. I am sure him and many other policemen are ignorant of the specificities in the Constitution and the laws that were already in place before the Constitution was enacted. So in terms of supremacy. So certain other provisions of other laws must be read together. One, with Article 2 of the Constitution, which presupposes that the Constitution is supreme. And the rights provided for under Chapter 4 of the Constitution, including rights for assembly, the demonstration, peacefully, and all that, they apply with equal force. So when you are reading the law, Mr. Laban, you read it in pari materia with all the other provisions of other laws, particularly applying to the same. Number two.
But are you saying there are no laws which prescribe regulation for assemblies?
Of course they are there, but you read them together with the provisions of the supreme law. Now, the supreme law has even been interpreted in many other authorities that courts have arrived at. The problem is that your policemen use, of course, under your own guidance, excessive force, and in fact, refractory force against the people who are actually converging to make it is an opinion that they don't like something that makes them converge to do what they, to tell the people and you government that they don't. You don't want them to converge. Number two, there is confusion. I have told you in limine that even NRM is a party on the opposition.
How do you
It
mean?
is not in government. You have also heard for yourself. First of all, the NRM members are stuck. They don't know. They don't know whether the president wants to run again. They don't know whether he wants his son to run. No, nobody is aware. They are all operating under guesswork. The son keeps promising we are coming 2026, we are appointing. Even the ministers appointed don't know whether they must now say no or
no,
yes.
Peter Gwang has tweeted, and now we can quote Twitter, because even Parliament has amended its rules to allow virtual seating. So this is provided for. Peter Gwang has responded and said, "Thank you, my brother, for the trust you've given to me. I am ready to serve."
Yes.
And that is in response to a tweet from General Moses Kanyuga.
And you've just heard for yourself what the Minister for National Guidance was saying, that he is waiting. You have now heard for yourself. Now, number two, a soldier is moving all over the country.
It was very clear that I'm waiting for what?
Yes, the soldier is, you are waiting for those who are part of government. I think it was OO, that is waiting for those who are part of government to tell him, to tell us whether they have accepted the appointments
of course,
or not.
yes.
So one of them has just accepted.
When somebody is appointed, the letter doesn't come to me.
No, so I'm saying he has.
Like you.
Probably you will now tell the public.
And I'm glad,
the new direction
that
to take.
The moderator has fished out the tweet of
yes.
of Gwang. I hope
now
he
what?
keeps
We have the same
tweet. I hope
now
he keeps to it.
Now what?
I hope he keeps to it.
Now, particulars of the meeting, the Kololo meeting, and I think we must be frank with the population, included among others a problem that arose between the National Resistance Party and the office of the National Chairman in terms of operations. Particularly, the office has led by the former leaders of that office. We know what happened. It was extremely antagonistic. And the president promised that the new office which parts will, it was something to do with budgeting and all that and the operations. So,
caucus. Are you referring to today's caucus?
I'm referring to that caucus that you're talking about that sat in Kololo.
No,
and that is what it, yesterday, not today. It sat yesterday. So,
no, it was today.
I am talking about the one that sat yesterday. And you know what, if you were part of it, you know what they addressed. So we need to be, yes. So for us,
no,
and for me, I think.
Yesterday, but it was postponed today. So you are.
You know what they addressed yesterday.
I don't know.
For me, one thing I don't do, Charles, is I never address anybody on things I don't know. I have never done it.
Were you in
except
were you in the NRM caucus meeting?
No, I know. I know what happened. I was not, but I know. If we intend to form government, we must know what the current government is doing.
But you're in government.
I am not in government.
The caucus was supposed to sit yesterday, but it was postponed today.
But by the way, I think you confuse me with the Minister for Justice and I am not his deputy. No. I am the deputy of the President of the Democratic Party. Yes, so I am not in government. The party, but what we think, but what we think.
No. Let's clarify this. The party to which you are deputy president or vice president signed a memorandum of understanding.
Yes.
That brought the minister, your party president, into government directly.
Yes, and that is something I wanted you to ask.
Yes.
So what happened was that agreement had clear guidelines. We are only cooperating on areas, including, among others, a solution to Uganda.
So you are in government, aren't you?
No. We are only working with the government on those areas, and the ministerial appointment is just a tool of implementation. We want to hold the constitution and bring back all the rights that don't exist. Is the ministerial appointment
personal holder or belongs? Is it personal holder or for the political party?
That one is a tool of the cooperation. It is under the agreement.
Okay.
It is not an amendment of the DP constitution. It is not an alliance. It is not a merger. It is just a tool. We think that where they cannot reach, we have somebody actually taller to reach there. And that is Honorable Norbert Mao.
It is a hammer.
Yes, it is just a hammer. So, and these are things that the population are not aware of. And once it fails, by the way, we maintain our status quo ante. So lawyers know what we mean by status quo ante. We begin acting as if we have never even agreed on anything, if you violate on the things we have agreed upon. So that is why it is my duty now. And when I am here, because the president is not here, I am the president of the Democratic Party. So what I speak is policy of the party. And accordingly, until, of course, overturned under Article 27 of our own party. So the country is at a crossroads. We have a government leader who operates in a manner that is actually so enigmatic. Even his own party that he comes from is not aware.
Let
It is
me
not guided by.
cut you short there. Everybody is aware, because you've said it many times and everybody else has said it. The country is at crossroads. It needs to be able to move
Yes.
to the next level.
Yes.
What is your plan to move to that?
Our
next?
plan is the cooperation to establish a national consensus, which is new,
Mm.
number one. Two, creation of political parties based on agreed frameworks that includes, among others, the provision of rights for all parties to operate. It has happened elsewhere. We want it to happen in Uganda. It is not available.
Okay.
What we have is somebody putting the country in a campaign mood when everybody else is not allowed to campaign except himself or those he allows to campaign. So those who think that we can achieve anything without actually telling him and finding out from him whether he's acceptable to the fact, I think, in my opinion, is being pretentious.
Eli Kasiri echoes
Yes.
what you're saying. Actually, he sent this message a bit earlier. Eli Kasiri is in Wakiso, and he says, government should open political space for all political parties to move,
yes,
build structures across the country because they are mandated by the law. The same way the president is mandated to monitor government programs like PDM. Eli, I thought...
But who has stopped them?
I thought political space was opened way back in 2005. But
are you stopped from moving anywhere in this country?
Honorable Salam
Come on.
Mushumba.
Really?
Can
When everybody moving is on bail now.
Can you imagine
How could you
what
ask?
Honorable Amos just said?
Everybody attempting to
Actually,
move is
even
on
find it
bail.
very, difficult to refer to him as honorable on this show, because how can you say that political parties are allowed to do what they want? When our leaders are arrested, abducted every day, when our people in Kasese went to, mobilize, they were just found in the room, charged with conspiracy to commit a felony. The court just dismissed the case.
But I was with you in Kasese mobilizing for by-election.
And you know what you did? You arrested.
Did they arrest you?
You arrested most of our polling agents. We complained officially. This is on record. You arrested most of our polling agents, put them in prisons, and others were just chased off polling stations.
Mr. Bongoya,
I mean, these things are on record.
Let me put the question this way.
That's not true.
You created the political party in this same environment. You've made some promises to Ugandans. The first promises you made was towards the last election. You made certain promises. You've not been able to deliver on those promises. Another election is coming up.
Which promises? Are you talking about promises in the context of if we are able to take government as
No. You actually promised that you'd take over government. That was your promise.
Our promise was...
You remove a dictator.
And the second one...
Yes, we said we are going to remove a dictator, and we are removing a dictator.
Far
The second one, they say
We are actually on it.
they will not allow somebody who has grabbed their power to beat the government.
Yeah, but that's what we are...
Do you have a plan to move from that? Because
Now, what I can say is, these people are here talking at the backdrop. General Museveni started the struggle to remove, to come to power in the 1960s. Until 1986 when he succeeded with his group. So a struggle for a better country for us which we want to establish. We know that it is protracted, we know that it is painstaking, we know that it might be long, it might be short. So, we are struggling every day, and because the fact that you grabbed our victory does not mean that you've stopped fighting to reclaim that victory. That is what I wake up doing every day, thinking about what do I do? If I bring this strategy and these people using money, the force of arms, etc., are able to dismantle that strategy, tomorrow I will wake up thinking about a different strategy. And that is what we call upon the people of Uganda to do. And examples, history is replete with examples. No dictatorship was dismantled in one day.
What's the difference between what you're saying you're trying to do and the other parties, FDC, DP, because you said they had failed and you had the magic one.
First of all, and with the greatest respect, I don't agree with the line of argument of Honorable Mbidde. We don't agree that we should, that General Museveni is at that point when he can, somehow be talked to, and he sees, everyone has tried to dialogue with him, and the results of that. But we believe in the united forces of change. And that is why you've seen us on the same platform with the FDC, with other forces that we believe with right now that we should continue struggling to change the fortunes of our people. So we are continuously doing that. And we have not stopped. Like I said, the regime, of course, does not provide any space for you to protest peacefully, for you to demonstrate. The courts have been packed and captured, and all these are things that are going on. But we are not stopping, and that is my message to the people of Uganda. I think it is Dr. Besje who normally says that if you go to town in the morning to you know, make money and you fail to get the money and you go back home, tomorrow you come back to town. That is the nature of struggle we're involved in. You try this strategy, if it doesn't work tomorrow, you come back and continue struggling. And again, that is how the struggle against apartheid succeed. That's what I've been here explaining.
They asked you for a strategy.
Our strategy, Honorable Baliomusi, is people power. We want the people of Uganda, the people of Chinchizi, to be able to have the right to vote for a president of their choice in this country, for an MP of their choice, without being put on gunpoint, without the barrel of the gun being put on their head. We want the people of Uganda to have their rights.
And you are saying the last election is you won in Chinchizi.
But of course, you know what you did in that area. Everywhere, the military taking over, and we had affidavits showing all these things. And of course,
let me take a message. Honorable Minister, I'll come to you after Honorable Salam Musumba.
Okay.
Andrew Irumba Katsabi is watching us and says, this English is very complicated, Mr. Irumba. It's like a bicycle and national disaster. Say that those who stole the iron sheets are at home with their families, and those who are protesting against the act are in prisons. And it's those powerful people, the thieves, who actually influenced via phone calls that they shouldn't get bail. If misuse of power was a person, then he puts dots and doesn't conclude it. Honorable Salam Musumba, we've been here, and many people have been asking about this so-called country at crossroads. The question is, must it stay at the crossroads? How does it move?
But for how long will we describe the same situation?
That's exactly the question I'm asking.
Crossroads and crossroads.
Yes.
No, we are not at crossroads. We are in a free fall. Even it's a luxury to describe us as crossroads, because there are no roads and there are no crosses. So you can't be a crossroad. What we are in is a creeping disaster. What we have described here, what these guys have described of NRM, is a coup happening in our very eyes. It is an unconstitutional engagement that they all can't call by name. Everything that they're discussing is really trying to divert the country from the constitutional path to a path they failed to describe. I don't want to get into an illegal, to give it.
Since when did you become a coward?
Because it's useless. I've been here long enough to know how useless and how bogus this discussion is. Because it leads to nowhere. It leads to nowhere. The guys we are dealing with are sophisticated, political thieves who subvert every process that we have agreed on, and who then throw us at the deep end and say, explain, what are you going to do with the Ugandans? Explain what. You are asking us to explain what we are going to do in an illegal situation. You know that we have, even under IPOD, we made efforts to reinstate our rights through the Public Order Management Act. I remember the Honorable Rukutana, the Honorable Rugunda met with us so many times, and they even made a promise that they were working on it, and I could see they were really working on it. And in one of the IPOD summits, the president was open to them and said, that's not the order I have given to my military. So you cannot ask me to sound intelligent about a matter that I know that this is not a democracy, this is gun rule. This is gun rule. There's a gun at everyone's head. And that gun is going to be the death of all of us. Just give it 2 years, 1 year. I can tell you at what point in time this is going to explode. Not even implode. Implosion will be a luxury. that an implosion can happen in NRM? No. This country is being set on fire. The firewood is being gathered. We are all watching happily as the English doctors are busy telling us that, oh, this should be happening. This is a military serving officer. Meanwhile, there are people plotting against the Constitution. There are people plotting against us, the people of Uganda. And this is not even the first time in our history. In all the 60 years of our independence, leaders have been plotting against the citizens of Uganda. So, let us hold our fire. Each of us knows what is going to happen and what we are being set up for. I'm even suspicious of this panel today, that you've invited us to incriminate ourselves, and so that we can be put out of action quickly.
How do you mean?
I mean, because you know what's happening. You know that the military is in full control of the democratic space. You know that. And you know that they are plotting against the people of Uganda. You know that. And you know that there are no parties to talk about because they can't operate. We have a dysfunctional multi-party system, very dysfunctional at all levels. And so you are hoodwinking the people of Uganda to look at us and judge us as people who have failed to offer what we set up, what we were licensed to do. We know those plots. We know. And we know the breaking point. Because NRM is going to be dead soon. They are the first to go on the guillotine. You are the first to die. You will be the first to die, NRM. And that's why I tell you that they are powerless. They don't even know what they are doing. Have you heard SEC, which they campaigned so hard to sit on? Yes. And yet you don't sit. You are powerless, you are toothless, you are impotent, you are everything, nothing. So please don't tell lies to Ugandans. There's no NRM. What is there are officers.
So there is FDC.
No, there's not even FDC. In real terms, we would like to offer leadership as FDC on our electoral platform. We have not been allowed to do so. If I took a walk and collected 5 people, I will be arrested before even I get to the bridge. I do not want to be waylaid on my way to do my work, my political work, and killed in an accident, and written off, because that's the stage we are at. Our history is repeating itself. We have had people disappearing. That's not news anymore. We have had people poisoned. That's no news anymore. What is going to be news? And what I see being couched is how do we overthrow ourselves? How do we overthrow ourselves decently? And so as the whole group, your class, under the guise of generational, because you began it, you are as guilty as them. You say the generational leadership. They picked it up from you. They have weaponized it. Now they say generational. Be mindful of the plots.
Even the devil knows scriptures, so it's not that they decided to copy, but we believe in this generation and we believe that we should be able to offer.
What I think you should be looking at is that as citizens, as the citizenry, because this is a civic exercise.
But no, so maybe you have forgotten
what
your recent history. In 2001, you were in the reform agenda. You were the ones who began generation.
No.
The Luwero consensus, the Luwero generation should go.
The Luwero consensus was an honorable Mao language.
You in the opposition, you at that time.
There was no opposition then. I was a movement person.
You were the Strange Bed Fellows.
No.
You began with Luwero generation has served, they should go. Now,
is that why they called it reform agenda? Yes, they said that the Luwero team had gone off course, the NRM team has gone off course.
Others have copied from you about the generational politics.
No, nothing.
Rather than the task at hand. who is more capable of identifying and dealing with the obstacles of the task at hand, rather than just generation.
Okay, we're continuing this
And I think
discussion.